All right, in this video, I'm going to talk about the sphenoid bone, and I'm going to kind of hop back and forth on slides. So I apologize if it gets a little confusing, but the sphenoid's a pretty complex bone. So I wanted to show you different views of it. If I'm looking straight on at the skull, this pink here, I know my pointer's, whoops, kind of in the way there. I notice that pink kind of forms the back part of the eye socket. Actually, two parts, kind of the uh, upper and inside or medial portion of the eye socket or orbital, and then the lateral portion of the eye socket. And then you see it's out here on the side of the head. Okay, again, look here. I see it from the side view, really forming a portion of the side of the skull. Can't see it in that view. And then on the inside, man, I got all this stuff here, this blue, that's all sphenoid as we're looking there. And again, looking at it from the bottom, this is all sphenoid here. So I can really see the sphenoid from a lot of different locations and a lot of different spaces. So here's what we're looking at. This is our sphenoid. So a lot of people compare it to a butterfly. Okay, look at this view here. See how it kind of has this butterfly shape. So it kind of have a body in the middle. And then they say it has two wings. So this portion here would they call the greater wing, and then the skinnier portion would be the lesser wing. So the greater wing and the lesser wing with the central body. Looking at it from the top, again, it does still have this this butterfly or bat looking appearance. All right, there's really a lot of structures on here that you're going to need to know and become familiar with. I highly suggest when you're trying to learn the sphenoid, you get out the skull in the room that is color coded and look at it and just try to study it from all different views. And then get with me, and I'll help you out as much as possible. So let's look at superior view first. All right, looking at it from the top, a couple of things that you need to know. So again, we have the greater wing and the lesser wing. The lesser wing is actually superior to the greater wing. All right, so it's on top, and that's the part that's forming the medial portion of the socket, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, within the lesser wing, there are these two holes called the optic canal, one here and one here. That is where the optic nerve travels to the back portion of the eye, connects to the eye, and that's what transmits signals from our eye to our brain, allows us to see and pick up those signals. Unfortunately, the skulls that we have in the classroom, those holes are kind of filled in, but you can still see a depression. That should be a hole going straight through there. There's this thing called the sella turcica or Turk's saddle. You can only see it from the superior view. All right. Turk's saddle, this is where the pituitary gland sits. Pituitary gland does a lot of stuff. We'll do a little research on that in a later unit. But your pituitary gland is actually sitting right underneath the brain in that sella turcica. One thing you need to know here is that the brain is basically sitting right on top of all this stuff right here. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're going through here. This is within the cranial cavity. You have these things right here called the anterior clinal processes. This kind of anchors the brain down. The front portion of the brain is kind of anchored to the anterior clinoid processes of the sphenoid bone. Then you have some other foramen in here. I want you to remember these. We'll go over them together. Foramen ovale is in the sphenoid. The foramen spinosum is in the sphenoid. And the foramen rotundum is in the sphenoid. Okay. Then go over here to the anterior view. I have this big, it's not really a foramen, it's not really a hole, but it's kind of like this big long gap. That is called the superior orbital fissure. Okay, so let me go back to a previous slide here, all the way back to here. Take a look at this, the superior orbital fissure right there. This big, I don't know if there's a better word for it, but a crack in that back portion of the eye. So that's between the greater wing, which is here, and the lesser wing, which is up here. That's again allowing nerves and muscles to enter that back part of the eye socket. And you see a good view of the optic canal right back in there. Okay, going back to my other side. I want to look at it from this view. Okay, this might be a little bit better picture. You can see some of these same structures. So now this here This is the superior view. Notice how it looks very similar to this here and where it is located in the skull. So again, the optic canal, you can't really see it on this. The cellator skull or Turk saddle, same thing, just different names. You see our different foramen there. We'll study those more later on a later video. Let me move this thing out of the way. See my superior orbital fissure. This is a good view of how it's between the lesser wing and the greater wing. Last thing I really want you to know about the sphenoid bone are these things called the pterygoid plates, the medial and lateral pterygoid plates. That keeps popping up there. Okay, the medial and lateral pterygoid plates. This is really where you have to look at the skull to get it. Basically, these things are sticking down. This one and this, all four of these things are sticking down and forming kind of the back portion of the nasal cavity. Right, the back portion of the nasal cavity. So there are these things, these extensions of the sphenoid bone that sticks down and forms that back portion of the nasal cavity. If I can get a better view here. Nope, that's the ethmoid. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going the wrong way. Okay, so again, this is another good view of it. So a lateral pterygoid plate, lateral meaning farther away from the midline, medial pterygoid plate, so here, and they form this thing called the pterygoid process. And again, when you see these words processes, we're going to these are going to be attachment sites for certain structures. I'm not requiring you to know what structure attaches to which of these things for our purposes right now. But again, sphenoid, man, there's a lot of stuff in there. Here's a good view of these pterygoid plates from underneath. So this would be a pterygoid plate here and here on both sides. Notice that that vomer is right in between them. I think that's about it. Do me a favor when you're doing this, get a skull, come sit down with me, and let's just go through the sphenoid together, and I'll help you out as much as you need.